This is day 2 of working on Tracy's computer. This is the first video for today. It's March 28th, 2021 and 9:05 a.m. So I still have her computer on. Let's see over here. It's I've had Task Manager open, and that cryptographic thing comes back once in a while and takes up a lot of CPU time. So I'm really interested in pursuing that, but I got to first be sure that I get her computer prepared so it can go back to her. So what I'm going to do next is we'll shut down the computer, connect 1 or 2 SSD drives internally, and do the Macrium Reflect Backup. So that is the plan for the moment, and then I figure I'm going to do these videos topically, meaning installing the SSD drives and performing the backup will be a video, and then I'll go on to the next video, which would be testing the no, actually that should be part of this video, testing the startup after doing restores, because I figure I'll do an image backup and then right away do an image restore and then check to see how the boot time is for the computer. So this is going to be a little awkward because I'm going to try to do this on camera to show what it takes to futz with the drives that are inside of a computer. So the computer's shut off. Unplug cables. Got this little clip thing here to help keep my cables on top of the table. Now I noticed when I was taking the VGA off is that this nut here was spinning, not tight. So I've got my various drivers here because I want to tighten that up. Whoops, that's not it. That one's too big. Because that'll eventually become a problem where I disconnect a VGA cable and then the nut shaft, bolt, whatever, stays connected to the VGA cable, and that's a nuisance. So this case has a thumb screw right here. It's got one of these eye holes here that you could put a padlock through to prevent somebody from taking the case cover off. If a person gets into your office or your home, can take the case cover off, and they can take your hard drive out, go attach it to the computer, and they can access the files on your hard drive even if they don't know your login password. For most computers, that login password is not required to access the files on the computer, the files that are on the hard drive. All you have to do is connect that hard drive to another computer, similar to the way that I'm going to connect these hard drives. Now, different cases come apart differently. The side that comes off is pretty much always the opposite side of the motherboard. You can tell where the motherboard is because that's where the connectors are. So the cover on the other side is what's going to come off. Now, some computer cases have a panel up here or a panel in front you have to take off first. Sometimes the screws could be on the top or on the front, but the factory manufactured major name computers, pretty common that there's some form of screws on the back. So because we have this lock eye bolt here, we know that means that this panel is going to have to slide off this direction. The way I typically do it is facing this way. Get some pressure down on the palms of my hands and push backwards. And then once it gets past that mark there, it should come up like this. Now I did take this cover off yesterday, and it was far more difficult. It was far more difficult than it was this time. It was very hard to get it past this point here. I kind of had to pry it past. And it could be useful to look at the connections to understand how the case cover fastens to the case. There's these slots all along here, and there's these bent out pieces of metal. That's the technical term. This guy right here, that's nothing to do with getting the cover off. That has to do with getting the expansion port covers off. So that gets that off, and then let's see what I can do for showing you around inside the computer a bit. And what do I have for light? We wind up using that light. Let's switch to this camera and see what we can get. Turn that down. So here's what it looks like inside, and I can tell by looking at my streaming computer, you can see that there's a lot of dust here. I don't see any dust bunnies around there, so it's not nearly as bad as I've seen on some computers. And the cooling fins for the CPU are right here. I don't see a lot of dust there. See if I can get you a better view of that. They look pretty clean. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and take this case outside and blow it out. So I'm going to be splicing some videos together. This is the end of this little segment. I'm going to take the case outside and show you one method that I can use to blow it out. I do not always clean computers out when they come into my lab. If I see that they're really bad, and I've seen some really bad ones, then I'll clean it out, even if it's not needed for the service that's involved. But the level of dust bunnies and dust this computer had, not a big deal. The CPU heatsink was not clogged, not at all. It was very clear to the eye, but having blown through it, I suspect it's better now than it was. Okay, so next is the SSD drives. So I've been thinking that I may be putting one or two in right now. I could just put one in to do the image backup and then restore the image backup. And the reason why I was going to put a second one in was to actually restore to an SSD drive so I can actually do the rest of my work on the SSD drive so that it's faster, and also do a speed comparison. But initially I want to have an image backup to an SSD drive. Now it's easier and more straightforward to only connect one of these SSD drives, because otherwise when I go to do backup or restore, which one is it? Well, I would be able to tell if I use a 512 and a 1 terabyte. That would always make it easy to tell which is which. I'm also interested in doing a speed test on both of these and the spinning hard drive that's in this computer. So how about that? The spinning drive that's in this computer. What do we have? Let's see what I can do about showing that. I could have looked at it through the system instead of trying on a label. It's a Samsung. Yeah, that's pretty worthless, isn't it? To look at that. It's a lot easier to just bring it up on screen when we have the computer running. But here's the SATA connectors that I can use. There's two SATA connectors in use right now. One is for the existing spinning hard drive. The other SATA connector goes to the CD drive. That is up here. Yeah, right there. So, decision time, Doug. What are you going to do? What you going to do? Let's start with this 512 SP SSD and get a data cable. Here's a SATA data cable. And I'd like to connect it to the numerically appropriate one. So I'm going to turn the camera around this way to show you that. See if I can. So there's the yellow SATA header and the blue SATA header. And at the side towards the top of your image, there's a lettering that says SATA 4 and SATA 5. I think you can make that out. So the yellow one is SATA 5, the light blue one is SATA 4. So I'm going to use SATA 4. Oops, wrong button. All right. All these gadgets, too many gadgets in my life. So that gives me a SATA 4 for data connection. Then I need a power connector. What do I have around here for power? Well, I'll tell you what, let's use plan B. Disconnect that. And since I'm kind of short-handed on power connectors, so here's a power connector to the DVD drive, and it's got two SATA power connectors. There are no other unused SATA power connectors, so I'm going to disconnect the SATA power from the DVD drive because I don't need the DVD drive for my work here. And I'm also going to disconnect the signal cable for the DVD drive. You know, I'm assuming it's a DVD drive. It could be a CD drive. This computer's old enough. Maybe. All right. So then that means I've actually already have enough data connectors in here. So here's that power connector. Oh, you know what? This is worth mentioning. The power connector is the bigger one. The signal connector is the little one. And where those two edges meet, there's a little lip or an L. The end of these connectors is kind of an L shape. And that corresponds to the L shape on the power connector right here. And also there's an L shape on the signal connector. Well, that L or that angle, they are always together. So I look at the power connector and I'm going to put that L portion towards the signal, and that way I know I've got I'm putting it on the correct direction. So I don't have to look at the device I'm connecting to every time to figure out which way to put the cables on, because that's consistent, that's stable. It's always that way. The L shapes are to the center of the device. Okay, so that's on. We've got the shroud in place. This cable, actually this signal cable I want to use on this SSD drive. And these SSD drives are light. They can just hang for temporary purposes. I will mount it, screw it in place when I'm ready to actually give it back to the client. assuming that I wind up sending an SSD drive back with this computer. I'm not totally decided on that yet, although I think it's pretty likely. So the next thing I want to do is perform the image backup. All right, move that guy out of the way. And I'm going to have to be able to plug the computer into power, keyboard, mouse, VGA. Do I care about having it over here to where you can see it? That doesn't, no, I don't see any reason to do that. So let's put it back over where I've got all these cables at. That would be the easier thing to do. So there's that SSD just hanging there. That's fine. It'll survive. Power. Keyboard, mouse. And I'm not going to connect Ethernet. And then VGA. Now this computer has Macrium Reflect already installed. So I could just start it up and use the Macrium Reflect that's already installed to do the image backup, but I'm going to boot it on a USB drive because there's that crypto whatever it was running on this computer, and it runs slow, and I think it just may work faster by doing it with a USB boot up. So that's the way I'm going to do it. I'll plug that into the front. Now, I don't know what the keystroke is to get to the alternate boot device. And this is an HP compact computer. So I think the approach I'm going to take is just hammering away on keys. So there's F8 and I think F11, F12 sometimes for the boot drive, but escape will often get it to pause during the boot up and give me the ability to make choices. So I'm not wanting to do any boot up time tests at this point, just go to that. I'm just questioning myself because I tend to forget things. There's the light, and I see a setup option on screen, and there's a setup, BIOS setup, and let's get a little acquainted with what we have here, shall we? And some of you are looking at this, oh my God, it's a text-based BIOS. Let's do, where do I want to do this? Gotta get this, yeah, that thing hidden. And then I'll come to here and move me down here. Okay, so what do we know about this BIOS? System about setup BIOS utility, copyright 1982-2011, so very old BIOS. I really don't bother with updating BIOS for HPs and Dell computers unless I have a reason to. Device configuration. So we're showing a 1 terabyte SATA ST. ST is typically Seagate, isn't it? What did I say this one was? Samsung. on the label. Okay, so then 512 gigabyte SP solid state disk and the USB. And then escape from there, storage options, legacy, diskette, removable media, boot order. So that USB device is grayed out. So on the bottom of this little dialog box, there's an F5 for enable. So it looks like booting from USB is disabled currently. So I can disable the hard drive. I can disable the Ethernet controller, which I think is a good thing to do, because let's just go ahead and do that, because I'm never going to want to boot off of Ethernet controller. So that stops the computer from trying to do that during its boot up process. So that right there might speed up a little bit. So here, F5 to enable that, and then escape out of here. And then we got security settings, don't need to do anything in there. We got power management. SATA power management is enabled. The choices there is enable or disable. So power management, I don't like for SATA drives to power down out of a timeout, but I control that from Windows. So I'll leave that. Operating system power management. So runtime power management is enabled. Idle power settings, hard disk reset. Nothing here I'm interested in really. Advanced. What do we got there? Select the legacy devices. No, don't need to do anything there. PCI devices for IRQs. Don't need to do anything there. No. And no. All right, so boot order. USB is at the top, but look at that, it's disabled again. What happened? Oh, F10 for accept on that dialog box. I don't think I did that. So now if I go over here to something else, go into some other menu option and come back, is the boot order still good? All right, good. And it looks like it's automatically going to go to the USB before the hard drive. So I don't think I'm going to have to do any key presses to get it to boot to the USB. So F10 to save changes and exit. Not pressing any keys. I think it's going to boot to the USB. Okay, I saw the Windows logo on both screens, got the spinning circle of dots. Oh, well, okay, this Macrium Reflect, it uses the Windows PE environment. So it will show a Windows logo and spinning circle of dots. And I see a red light on the thumb drive. Yeah, Macrium Reflect, so it is booting to that memory stick. So I could have connected that SSD drive through a USB adapter externally, but then that would have run at a slower speed. I could have done the backup to that external hard drive I showed you in the last video. That's a 3.0 USB, but this computer only has USB 2.0. So the fastest backup should happen with having an internally connected SSD drive. So here we're on the Restore tab. It's interesting that it defaulted to the Restore tab. That's probably because it recognizes there's a bunch of backup images on this thumb drive. On this thumb drive, is that where it's finding these? No, no, it's not, because it's finding these on the M partition. So this spinning hard drive I have partitioned as a C drive and an M drive. I use M drive for Macrium. And remember I mentioned that that Macrium Reflect is installed on this computer, so it's doing scheduled backups, scheduled image backups. I'm going to go to the Backup tab, and here's the MBR. Now that's something worth pointing out. It is an MBR formatted disk because of the age of this computer. This computer does not have a UEFI BIOS, so we cannot do a GPT format. Pretty sure I'm saying that right. If not, please correct me in the comments. But I don't think this BIOS will do a GPT. So then I want to image this disk. And this down here is showing the SP SSD drive, and it's showing partitions already existing. Because that package was already open, I've already used that as a scratch disk for some other purpose. Well, that purpose is irrelevant now, I don't really care about, but I'm actually going to be making the image to the SP SSD drive. I'm not going to be cloning, I'm going to be imaging. So I've got the drives, the source selected, click image this disk, and then select a location to back it up to. Now I could back it up to that M partition, but that M partition is actually on the spinning hard drive. So no, I don't want to do that, because the whole reason for putting the SSD in the computer is to get a faster backup. So I think that's probably the I drive. Is it I or is it G? G doesn't show me any folders. I does, and I looks like an actual Windows installation. And I'm only going to be using this location temporarily. Let's see what system D is. I can't see anything there. Macrium Revo, so that's my thumb drive. So I'm going to come here to this I drive, and will it let me... I cannot create a subfolder in here. That's right. I remember that now. Click OK. So that's going to back it up to a file in this location. But I'd like to have a subfolder actually. So I'm going to call up Windows File Explorer from this Windows PE pre-install environment is I think what that stands for. So Windows key and the letter E, does that bring up File Explorer? Doesn't seem to. I know there's a way to get to it. I've done it before. That's a screenshot. Open Macrium PE Explorer. That'll work. So I'll left click on that. Do we need a double click? Try a double click. There we go. Here's Explorer. So then I'll go to that I drive and look at the folders in here. So then I'm going to right click, choose new, choose folder, Macrium Backups. Spelling matters. Not really, but to me it does. Close that window. And then go back to the ellipsis menu for the folder storage location. Select Macrium Backups, click OK. So now the backup location is icon / Macrium Backups. I'm not going to use the image ID. I'm going to put something more descriptive. So this is Tracy's computer. Image from HDD, rather than typing out spinning hard drive, before fixes. And let's also add, what was that encryption thing called? Encryption, what was it? I'm going to call it malware because I just don't think it's right. So it's mal. So that's a long, very descriptive name. Click next, click finish. And it's off and running. Now, when you go through those steps on Macrium Reflect when it's installed onto the hard drive, it asks if you want to save the backup and if you want to schedule it. But apparently it does not do that when you're booting from a USB. Did not know that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn my camera off and mute my microphone. I'm going to leave the video recording running, and I'll put a chapter marker. So if you don't want to watch through the backup, understandable, or maybe if you're interested in seeing if you're interested in seeing how the estimate of times are progressing and things like that, because I think there's some interesting things in there, then you can do fast speed. You can watch it on a faster speed by clicking the gear icon down in the bottom right corner and choosing a faster speed. Right now it's telling us an estimate of 12 minutes in the bottom right corner, so that's not bad at all. Well, that's only in the bottom graph. The top graph says 1 hour and a half, so that's going to be a while. So yeah, I'll leave the recording going. It's possible that I might speed up the recording, and let's turn on that stopwatch. I'm not sure if that's important since the backup itself has a timer. So if I move this up, does that give us that timer? Let's see. Which keyboard? Bring that up, and we're on 3, and what happens there? That is camera 2. If I bring that up, that brings me on screen. Okay, so I need to go over here and bring this up. There's the timer. Then I can bring me back, and then I can go start the timer. So obviously I'm starting this timer late we're already how far into it. Doesn't tell us how many minutes we're into it right now, but that's okay. So I'm going to turn off my picture-in-picture, mute my microphone, and just let it run. And if you don't want to watch any of that, you can just slide forward to the next chapter marker. And that's that timeline down at the bottom. If you look, it's got increments on it. Just slide forward to that next increment, because that's when I turn my picture-in-picture back on and unmute my microphone and start talking again once it's finished. Okay, so picture off and muting in 3, 2, 1, 0. Well, here's a disaster. Oh no. No free space on destination. Please select a new destination to continue. Over here, no space on destination. I did not check to see how much free space was on that drive. Remember that SSD that I'm backing up to appears to have a bootable image on it. I did not look to see how much free space it had. Oh, my weekend, I'm feeling time crunch now. I've got to get this computer back to the user. So I'm going to take plan, what is it, E now, maybe F. And I think what I'm going to do is shut the computer down, connect that 1 terabyte Samsung drive and do the backup to it. It's currently unformatted because I don't think this box has ever been opened. No. And then do what? Oh, this is not good news. That backup was showing such a long time. I've been looking in on it once in a while. So I don't think it's been sitting on this message too awful long. I guess I can stop that timer that's running. Stopwatch. So I've got my plan B for what I'm going to do. I mean, I've changed my plans. Well, I guess not plan B, right? It's plan F, did I say? But I'm not going to describe all that right now. I just need to get this thing back into making the backup. And I'm also wondering, let's see, I've got that SSD connected to the SSD, the SATA header that used to be used for the DVD drive. So that should be a fast SATA port. I'm thinking that maybe that SATA 4 and 5 might be slower. Alright, so let's shut this guy down. See, this says select a new destination to continue, making it sound like I could just select a secondary location. Select a new... Can I? Maybe... No, I don't want to do that. I'm thinking that I could go to the M drive, but that's on the physical hard drive, and that's just likely going to slow it down. And it's going to split that up into 2 files, one on SSD, one on the spinning drive. No, that's way too messy. I'm going to cancel. Cancel, are you sure? Yes. Am I happy about it? No. Where is the no button? I didn't see the no button to say I'm not happy with this. I cannot connect a SATA drive with the computer on. Somebody recently told me they thought they were hot swappable, but that does not appear to be the case. So I want the computer to shut down. I do not want it to reboot. So there's no signal. I'm unplugging power because I don't want it to reboot, because I think it was about to reboot. So I'm going to leave power disconnected and then take this, here, Samsung drive, put it in on the same connectors that 0.5 terabyte drive was connected to. Okay, start the computer up, power, this way, Computer on. So fingers crossed that this Samsung SSD might be faster, but I think the speed of that, oops, I'll show you what's going on here. The following configuration options were automatically updated to show the 1 terabyte SSD. F1 to save changes. This still should automatically boot to the USB. So even if the Samsung is faster than the SSD on speed test, I really think the bottleneck of this is obviously the spinning hard drive. So let's clear the timer, stopwatch. I don't know why I keep calling it a timer. And I'm just going to start the same backup job, which means I'm in for another 2+ hours before I can do the next steps. And I don't have any way around that. This may be, it's 12:43 in the afternoon on Sunday. So this still sounds doable for my plan F. Which again, I'm not going to go into right now because I just want to get this backup started. My focus is on getting this started. So here, go to the backup tab. It automatically went to the restore tab. Again, because it saw, oh, it sees backups on that M drive. That's why it's doing that. So here I select the MBR disk. It's only 60 gigabytes occupied. And then image this disk. That second disk is blank. Can I image it before creating a partition there? That's going to the M drive. No, it did not. It did not let me select that yet. Let's see. Image this disk. Destination. What is the F drive? Let's go back. Oh no, that's the F drive right there. So that's not what I want. That's not going to work. I've got to first put a partition on there. So I'm going to double click on this Macrium PE Explorer. Can I do it from there? No, that disk is not showing. Arg. This doesn't have any partitioning capabilities. Let's see, this shows me a C prompt. Okay, so can I get disk mgmt dot, what is that, MSC? No. No. What is that disk utility? Disk part, partition, part, disk part. DiskPart? There it is, DiskPart. And there's no, there, it finally gets. Okay, so then list disk. It's showing disk 0, 931 gigabytes, has 0 space free. So that sounds like, the right one. Disk 2 must be my USB memory stick. Disk 1. Okay, so then let's do select disk 0 and then list part. There are partitions on there. Yeah, so that looks like the spinning disk. So let's select disk 1, list part, no partitions. Okay, so how do I make partitions? / question mark, good. Edges, attach, clean break, compact, create a volume, partition, or virtual disk. Create a partition, all right. So create. So my active disk is the C drive. So if I do create, enter, Microsoft Part, partition volume disk, create partition. Okay, so let's see, I'm going to make sure list part to be sure that I'm still on the right disk selected. And then create partition, enter, and then create partition primary. And either it'll do it or give me some more help. DiskPart succeeded in creating the specific partition. Okay, so now create volume. Let's see, create partition disk. Okay, create partition primary, create volume, enter. So then create volume, not RAID, simple, yes, not stripe, not mirrored. So simple. Create volume simple. Please specify a dynamic disk and try again. Specify a dynamic disk and try again. I don't want a software RAID volume set. Specify list disk. A dynamic disk. So none of those disks have a mark in this dynamic column. So there is no dynamic disk. Do I create a dynamic disk? Let's do help again. Create volume partition virtual disk. No. I'm not doing good here. Nope, I'm not doing good here. Aborting, abort, abort, abort. Danger, Will Robinson, abort. I'm pulling the USB memory stick out and I'm going to let it boot on the spinning hard drive to get into Windows, and I'll use that to format a partition on this 1 terabyte SSD. So plan F did not work. I modified to plan G on the fly. No battle plan survives contact with the enemy. Somebody famous said that. I know this computer's going to take a while, so I'm going to go figure out who said that. Wrong keyboard. Is that the right one? Who said no battle plan survives contact with the enemy? There it is. right at the top of the search suggestions. Piece of military wisdom derived from formulation 19th century Persian military commander Helmut van Moltke. Huh. Can't say that I would have recognized that name. Alright, so here this computer is just getting started up. So I'm going to go into diskmanagement.msc, otherwise known as what? Drive Manager? Let's see if I can do a Windows key R. I know that's going to be slow responding. Okay, disk. Whoops, nope, it went into Notepad. Don't save. Okay, disk mgmt.msc, enter. So since I'm booted onto this hard drive, should I do Macrium Reflect from the installed version? I don't think so, because that encryption thing is going to keep getting in the way and slowing things down. And I have done some research on the encryption thing. I'm going to get to that later. Not now. All right. So here's this partition, right click, and not active. What do I want to do here? Format? Is it just is that all I needed to do? Rather than create a volume? Maybe. I'm gonna name it Macrium Backups. Perform a quick format. That's done. That's currently listed as D drive. Okay, then Windows key E to bring up Windows File Explorer. Scroll down to the E drive, showing as D drive. Okay, create a folder there. Macrium Backups. And then restart the computer. Put the memory stick in. So just as an aside, I recently vacuumed my office space here, and today when I brought that computer back in from outside, I found this on the floor. Looks like it's broken off of something, but I don't have a clue what it is. Got this washer on this side. So it was right in the middle of the walkway, like it was broken off of the computer. So I'm going to keep my eyes out to, open to spot where that came from. Because at the moment I don't have a clue, but it's fresh. It's something that was on a part of the floor that I should have noticed shortly after it appeared there, and I think it did just appear there today. I don't mean magically out of thin air, but it broke off of something. What do I have around here that is missing a part that looks like that? I do not know. All right, here we go. Go to the backup tab, click on the source, click image this disk, click on the ellipsis menu button, go to the D drive, expand it, click on the folder called Macrium Backups, click OK. Remove the check mark for that file name and then call it Tracy original HDD before repairs has encryption malware. And from my research, malware might be unfair to call it that, but I'm still going to stay with that. Click Next, then click Finish, and it should be off to the races. Okay, so once again, mute the microphone, turn off my picture-in-picture, and you can advance forward. And obviously I'm going to have to compact these because this video is way too long to be able to upload with any reasonable performance. All right, see you later. Let's see. That one. So this is getting close to the end here, less than a minute. Let me point out this 428 megabits per second. This obviously has gone faster than it did with on the previous attempt when we ran out of space. I'm very curious to go back and look at the transfer rate on the other one to see if it was just taking a dive and going a lot slower, because it's my understanding when an SSD gets full that it slows down. So I'm wondering if that's why that one took so long, because this has been much quicker. We're coming up on 1 hour and 45 minutes on the timer on the stopwatch. And that's quicker than it went the first time around. So when we get to the end here, then I'm going to reattach the SP SSD drive in place of the original spinning hard drive, restore the image onto this, and then try to boot the computer off of that. So this shows 1 hour 45 minutes. Wow, that's pretty close to the timer. I guess I didn't delay that long from when I started the timer. So let's clear the timer and then close this down, close that, close the program, which will exit us out, and then I'm going to pull the power when it's there. That was just the splash screen trying to restart the computer. It was the BIOS splash screen. So then I'll disconnect the power and the signal cable from the spinning hard drive and connect those to the SP SSD. This is the one that apparently had a boot image on it and that I tried to back up the hard drive to this one and ran out of space. So what we're going to do now is restore the image that we just created onto this drive so that it becomes a bootable drive, and then we'll work from there. So here's power on, and it should boot to the USB drive. Oops, got to put the power cable in. And then power button, and we'll get started. So this should go a lot quicker, restoring that backup image from a solid state drive to a solid state drive that's going to become the primary drive. Okay, so here we have that same thing where BIOS is recognizing a change of hard drive. So I'll press F1 to save changes. And I'll be paying attention to the sizes of these SSDs. The 1 terabyte SSD has the image file, and the 512 gigabyte SSD is full of data, but we're going to wipe it out by restoring the image file over that. So I guess I can also take a look at the space issue to see how much free space is still available on that SP SSD, the one that ran out of space during the backup. I'm surprised a 512 gigabyte hard drive that had a bootable image on it didn't have enough space for that, 60 gigabyte image file. Maybe the data that was on that drive was not just a fresh Windows 10 installation. Maybe it was somebody's imaged hard drive that was pretty full to begin with. I don't know. Find out. All right, so let's go explore that a little bit. I'll come down to this computer monitor looking thing and double click to open Explorer. And let's see, there's Macrium Backups is on the 1 terabyte drive. Here's the 476C drive. It has 323 gigabytes of free space. Why did we run out of space when I was doing the backup? That's far more than was needed to back up the original hard drive. That's strange. So if I come in here to the Macrium Backups folder, I should be able to see how large that backup is. Here's that backup we just did. Wow, it's 432 gigabytes. What? Why would it be 432 gigabytes? That original hard drive only had like 60 gigabytes in use. That sounds like it was a forensic backup. That's really strange. That does not seem right. Okay, so here, let's get going. That's a mystery for another day. I'm not gonna be able to sleep very well with that mystery hanging over my head. All right, so the F drive is a 1 terabyte drive with half of it free, implying that nearly half of it is that backup. 432 gigabytes is that backup we just did, and that shows today's date and the time. So that's the backup file I'm going to use. Oh, I see. That explains it. Look here, the C drive was only 60 gigabytes. But remember that original drive had a backup partition. I called it the M drive. It was doing Macrium backups in that partition, and that was 397 gigabytes. That's why this took so long to do, because I just did an image backup including that partition that had the backups. That was a very big mistake. Not severe consequences, just made things take a lot longer. So I'm going to restore. I'm going to try restoring just this partition. So if I select restore this partition, see, typically we would do this reserve partition and this, what is this one? These two, typically there's these two tiny partitions. I don't think we actually have to include them in the restore. So here's the restore file from the F drive. These are the partitions that are inside that restore file. No, this is MBR disk 1. That's the Seagate drive. That drive is disconnected right now. How are we able to even see that? This must be Macrium on the USB thumb drive that's remembering this. This is the file I want to use. Let's go browse for an image file. It's on the F drive. No file selected. Double click, Macrium Backups, here. Click OK. All right, so this is not, this is showing the content of that image file. That's got to be what's going on. So if I go restore image, it's going to try to restore that entire image to this 512 gigabyte drive, and I don't want it to do all that. Let's see if it gives me a chance. Yeah, here. Okay, so here I can choose which partitions I want. I do not want to restore the M partition. These 3 partitions, okay, so that's fine. We can restore those. Select a disk to restore to. If you select a different disk, your current operations will be discarded. What's that? Why are you giving me that message when I just select disk to do? Okay, let's answer yes to that. Now what? Now what do we get? All right, so here's that 1 terabyte disk that's got that backup. And we're going to restore to the 500 gigabyte disk, and it's only going to restore these 2. But wait a minute, this is called the source. And it's still got selected destination to restore to. Oh, these windows are overlapping each other in a weird way. Oh, it wants me to click on one of these. Okay, so we're going to restore to here. This is the 500 gigabyte. Okay, that was just a little weird presentation. So this is the disk we're restoring to. It has these partitions currently on it. So then I'm going to remove that check mark for the M drive and then copy selected partitions from the source to the destination. So when I click on this, these 3 partitions will show up down here if there's sufficient space. And there is. So there's another 58 megabytes out here in the Netherlands. And I can go ahead and, can I do this? Restored partitions. What I want to do is I want to expand this out to the rest of that region. Might as well use the whole. You know what? It's my understanding that if you leave some unutilized space, then that helps the drive last longer because of the way SSDs move data around and try to keep all the cells fresh. I think it will still use these cells over here, even if I'm not utilizing that. I know this 3rd partition doesn't need that extra space. Do I know that? Pretty sure of that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead with that. And let's see, we got C drive 60.47, 60.47, good. So click next, and then click finish. This should go a lot faster. We're only dealing with 60 gigabytes worth instead of that 450 gigabytes of backup, of old backups. Following drives will be overwritten. D system and C OS that are on that 512 gigabyte SSD. Yes, because that drive does have C and D drives. Confirm to proceed and continue. SSD target detected attempting trim operation. SSDs utilize the trim operation. You won't see that on a spinning disk. And here we're off and running. Let's click start on the stopwatch. So I'm going to turn off microphone and my picture-in-picture, and I'll put in a chapter break so you can just scrub forward to the next chapter section. No, 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 no. What just happened? Why is it recording now? Oh crap. I am upset with myself. Doggone it. All right, you saw that restore operation getting right up to the end. It gave a report of how fast, well, okay, what happened? It got to the end and then I pushed the buttons over here on my Stream Deck to turn the picture-in-picture back on and to unmute the microphone. So I hit those two buttons and then I started talking away and wrapping that up and did, I don't know, another 10 minutes or so. And then I went to end the video and discovered that I had mistakenly hit the record button instead of the picture-in-picture button. So I'd actually prematurely ended the recording at the end of that restore operation. So now I got to try to remember what I said. All right, the restore operation, when it finished, it told us how long it took. It was about 20 minutes. It told us the speed that it was reading and writing at. The reading was a couple gigabits per second, and the writing was around 450 megabits per second, similar to the write speed that we were seeing during the backup operations. So the restore operation happened in 20 minutes, but you have to, which was a lot quicker than the backup operations, but you have to remember those backup operations were including that M drive partition that had a bunch of Macrium Reflect image backups. So there was 400 some odd gigabytes of data that we had backed up, that I had backed up. It wasn't your fault. That we didn't need. Okay, so then I shut the computer down and I disconnected the SSD that has the backup image on it, and now I have only the 512 gigabyte SSD that has the bootable partition. So then I booted it and I did the reboot test, a speed test, and it restarts now in 1 minute and 16 seconds. So that's less than half the time that it was rebooting under the spinning hard disk. The spinning hard disk was taking anywhere from 3 minutes 15 seconds to 3 minutes 24 seconds to get to the point where that notepad would open up. Well, now notepad opens in 1 minute and 16 seconds. So it's a lot faster. That cryptographic services is still running in the background, but it doesn't seem to be as disastrous on the performance of the computer, theoretically, because of the faster SSD drive. So then I decided to end the video at that point, because that video, this video that you're seeing the tail end of now, was intended to just be installing the SSD and making a backup and doing a restore. And I know I was intending to restore to the original spinning hard drive and see if that sped it up, but it took so long to do the backups, and I made a couple mistakes during those backups. So I'm running out of time in the day, so I need to shortcut this so I can get this computer back to the user. I should go install it tonight rather than tomorrow morning. Yeah, I have keys to the office and alarm code, all that kind of stuff for a lot of my clients. And then maybe I'll borrow it back next weekend to do the rest of the experiments that I want to do, such as restoring the image to the spinning hard drive and see if that speeds up the boot time. So the spinning hard drive is still here. I'm going to leave it in place, just not connected. And I'll secure the SSD in the computer. So what I'll want to do next is see what I can do about that cryptographic services thing, but But actually, you know what? Another piece of what I ought to do as part of this video is to show securing that SSD in the computer. So I have these mounting brackets for the 2.5 inch SSD drives to be able to mount them into a 3.5 inch drive bay. So these ones are for a single SSD. You can see the height of that. And this one is for a double SSD. You can see that that's got 2 mounting holes, and so it allows me to stack 2 SSDs in the space. So I only need the one. And these particular ones, it's called, I don't see a brand name. No, I don't see a brand name, so I'll give you a better view of that. I ordered these from Amazon. I first looked at that and saw the word convert and thought, is that the brand name? No, it just says convert 2.5 inch drive bays to 3.5 inch drive bay. They come 2 in a box. 2 of these single drive brackets in a box. They come with some Velcro straps and they come with some screws. So let's go ahead and do that piece. You know, before I do that piece, I should give you the pleasure of seeing the reboot, because I missed capturing that on video. So I can go ahead and redo that for you. Let's clear the stopwatch and be prepared to click start. And then on the computer, the Windows, and then power, and then restart 3, 2, 1, 0. So expecting this to be about 1 minute 16 seconds. That gave a little delay right there because there was something in the background that was a little stubborn. So that might mean more than 1 minute 16. Unless that was their last time also and I just didn't notice it. Automatically logs in because I made that entry in the registry. That was on a prior video, so if you haven't seen the prior videos for the Tracy series, then you missed that. Now got to get ready to stop the stopwatch. The system tray has 3 icons in it. I'm expecting 6 icons before the notepad appears. So there's 4, 5, 6, and here comes notepad. Right? It came up quicker than this last time. What? Come on. Boom. 1 minute 32. So yeah, that took longer. Wonder what that was about. Had to be about that whatever was running in the background. I'm going to try that again. Windows, whoops, got to stop, clear, power, restart and start in 3, 2, 1, 0. Watching the screen to see if that stubborn program, program manager is preventing you from restarting. So that took a delay of a few seconds. Why would program manager? Maybe because it was still trying to start something in the background? I don't know. I do enjoy these backgrounds that Windows 10 has. They find the most awesome scenery. Alright, so there's 3 icons in the system tray. 4, 5, no, that's 4. There's 6. Yeah, so there's the minute 29. Boy, that's inconsistent. Okay, I'm going to let go of that and move along. Let's do a shutdown. I don't need to pull a power plug on this because this wasn't exiting from Macrium. So disconnect that guy. See what kind of view I can give you of this. That's pretty decent. So the way these works is this cutout is going to be the side where the edge connectors go, and the SSD has screw holes on the bottom, so it'll get screwed into those 4 holes right there, and then these holes on the side will get screwed into the computer, to the bracket that's already in the computer. So I need the screws. Those screws are not right. Those screws must be left over from another drive that I replaced, because those are really long screws. That's not what I want to use here. So I'm going into this other box. Remember I said that there's 2 cartridges or cassettes, whatever you want to call them. So here's 2 packages of screws that come in the new box. So these black ones, these little tiny black ones, are the shorter ones, and then there's one of the black ones there. Those are the ones that I want to use. And then these little bags, the way I like to open them is just squeeze and roll it like that. Okay, yep. So then I'll go grab a screwdriver for that. There they are. Let's see which screwdriver this fits better in. That fits real nice. Here's a smaller screwdriver, Phillips. That has a little bit of wiggle room. So let's use this one. I think that's still magnetized pretty good. Yep. Trying to do this in a way that is skillful and stylish, and that just isn't working. But I think the magnetism is a little bit weak to do this, because I should be able to just set the screw on the head there. Okay, after I got them all in most of the way, then I just go around in sequence to give them just a little snug. They don't need to be tight like a mechanic would do. So then that's ready to go in, and you can see why we need to put the edge connectors on the side that has the cutout. Then let's go over this way. What do I want to use here? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Let's see. This is, can I show you this? Where's that light? Remember when I showed you this piece that I found on the floor? I didn't know where it goes to. Let's see, is there a lever to slide that out? Yes, there's a lever. Can you see that? There's a lever right here. It's got a little green tab on it. I can press it out like this, and this drive should come out. Does that look familiar? So this must have been floating around inside the computer, because this drive has all four of them in place. Now, because this computer uses those things, that's going to make it a little bit awkward to secure this inside here, because I basically need four of those to secure this. So these are some kind of a vibration dampener. Now this computer has extra screws up here mounted and just screwed into there. Yeah. These guys right here. So let's see what that gives us. As a matter of fact, there's a little embossed image right here showing, has the letters NB next to it. But it has an image that looks like, oh, it has an image that looks like a CD drive. Oh, it's these screws. It's these screws up here to be able to put in another drive down here in this second bay. So that doesn't give me a way to mount something in here. Are there any other extra screws in this case? I
could take the screws out of the hard drive, but I think well, let's see, this just has slots. It doesn't even have holes that I can screw into. Here's a hole up here. I think I might just do this down and dirty and just get the job done. One of the really nice things is that SSD drives are so light that we can use non-standard methods to mount them. So I can put a screw in there, and I would be seriously fine with only one screw. Now, if one of those other screw holes happens to be in a convenient position, I could put in a second. There is no other hole that matches up. But it doesn't, I think there's some kind of a shelf up there. No. I'm just going to go with that for now. It will do the job. And then my SATA 0 is this one, right? Yes. Look where the L shape is, and that goes towards the center of the two connectors, the two edge connectors. And then this SATA signal cable goes up to the CD drive. CD drive, DVD drive, whatever it is. And then bring these cables, power cables, back out. And look where the L side is, the angle side, and put that towards the center. And then take this power cable, look where the L is on it, and put it towards the center for the CD drive. Medical offices, this chiropractor office, they do sometimes use CDs/DVDs. And then this was my extra cable. Extra SATA signal cable. Now, some of these SATA cables have a clip that you have to depress in order to pull it out. And when you push it in, it snaps in place. So you need to be aware of that, or you could damage something by struggling to get it out. All right. So that's all I need to do inside the computer. I think I'm going to be returning it like this. So why not put the cover back?
So the answer to why not put the cover back on is that it's really clumsy to do it with the computer standing up like that. What next? Oh, that's the end of this video. Yeah, because the next piece I want to do is trying to deal with that cryptographic service. So I'm going to end this video, and within a minute or so, I'm going to start a new video. So I was asking myself, haven't I already done this piece on this video? But that's when I discovered that it wasn't recording. If you would like to request a free support session with me, send an email to me, DougBetts@LiveWindowsTraining.com. Give me an idea in the body of the email what you'd like to have help with. Don't need to go into any big detail. And we'll put it together. So I hope this video has been useful. Have a great day. Catch you later. Goodbye.